4 modifications to take the trucker's hitch to the next level. You might be used to tying a trucker's hitch just like this. You first create a loop on your line here, pass a bight through, and then your free end through that loop. And now pulling tension gives you that 2-to-1 mechanical advantage, meaning you could pull 10 pounds and it puts about 20 pounds of force on the other end. Now one of the mods we'll dive into is increasing that force from a 2-to-1 to closer to a 3-to-1. But to do that, we first need to upgrade this slip knot. And if you don't know how to tie the basic trucker's hitch, or you just want a refresher, just pause. You could check out this video right here. It's just a 2-minute in-depth on the trucker's hitch, and then you could resume this one. Now, the most common issue people run into with the trucker's hitch has to do with this first slip knot here. The problem is once you tie it, it's locked in place, so you kind of have to guess where it goes. Like here, for example, where I misjudged and the loop is too close, so it's maxed out at the tree, and my tarp can't get properly tensioned, which means you've got to untie it and try to reposition it further down the line. So we're going to solve this with our first upgrade, making the loop adjustable. Here you can see I've added an adjustable friction hitch known as a prusik, and it takes the place of our slip knot, except for it could slide up and down the line. In simple terms, we take a loop of rope that's thinner than our main line and wrap it through itself 3 times. Now without any tension, you could slide it along your main line, but when you pull on it, friction holds it in place. So now we use this in place of a traditional slip knot, and it follows the exact same principle, but with 2 superior qualities. The first one, its ability to slide up and down your line and be adjustable. So if you happen to max out your pulling, like against the tree, you can easily just slide it farther up without having to undo your rope, and then pull to tension it. And the second superior quality is its ability to withstand binding up, which is probably the worst part about tying the standard trucker's hitch. That slip knot tends to bind up, especially if you have thin paracord. It makes it almost impossible to undo. Which brings us to mod number 2, which might be our best all-round upgrade. It's especially the best when working with really heavy objects or really tight tension. And before we move on, if you want to learn any more about the prusik knot, here's a dedicated video here. You could pause this one, come back to it just as we move on to the butterfly trucker's hitch. Now this is my personal go-to because you might not always have an extra loop for a prusik, and overall it's the most secure and most trustworthy in my opinion, and it never binds up. So this is known as the alpine butterfly. You can see it used here in place of the standard slip knot, and that's the only thing that changes in the rig. And I'll just go over how to tie it very quickly. And then again, if you'd like to see an in-depth video on the alpine butterfly, really learn the ins and outs of tying it, just pause the video and click this in-depth tutorial here. Now I've made up a mnemonic or an easy saying to help you remember how to tie the alpine butterfly. It goes like this. Grabbing a loop, the butterfly spins around twice. Then it flies underneath the branch and lands in the center of the flower. And that's it. Just pull the loop through and pull each side and you have your alpine butterfly. With a bit of practice, this gets very easy to tie and will likely soon become your favorite midline knot. We use it with the same mechanics as the original trucker's hitch, but it's literally just an upgraded version because the butterfly is just very resistant to binding. And so to get it all undone after there's been massive tension, you just push both ends of the rope together towards each other and eventually it just starts loosening up. Now whether you're using the slip knot, the alpine butterfly, or the prusik version, these trucker's hitches give you about a 2-to-1 ratio. Now, technically speaking, a trucker's hitch or block and tackle should be a 3-to-1 ratio, but I round down because there's a lot of friction loss in our system, especially with the rope-on-rope contact. But there is a mod we could do to our system to get closer to a 3-to-1 ratio, something around 2.5. And that is simply adding a carabiner to the mix. Whether attaching to the alpine butterfly or attaching to the prusik, the carabiner will allow a smoother pull and way less friction, especially on this turn here. So that's slightly more mechanical advantage and just generally better for heavy objects and high tension. Now the one downside is how do we make it auto-locking? Because under high tension or a heavy pull, you'll want to be using both hands. If you just wrap twice like you do on a normal rope, the auto-locking function isn't going to work. The carabiner is too slippery. But if you double wrap it with a certain orientation, then you could pull with both hands on the free end and let go, like this. And the whole thing locks up and holds tension, so now I can put my weight on it and it still holds. This way you won't lose any tension when you go to lock it up. So if your carabiner has a thinner end, it works best if that end is pointed towards you. You loop the free end through and go underneath for a second wrap. And now when you pull, something interesting happens. Our free end gets nestled underneath our standing line. All the tension pulling this way is cinching down on our free end. So we could pull, but then when we let go, all that tension bites down and doesn't let it loosen. Understanding the concept of having this highly tensioned line over top of your free pulling end will help you problem solve and figure this one out while you're practicing. I should add, the carabiner also protects from rope on rope friction that you get from the standard auto lock, which could damage your rope in the long term, especially if it's paracord on paracord. Which brings me to one of the coolest variations that I've seen. I don't think it's that popular here in North America, but apparently it is on the other side of the world. Now, I learned this one from Outdoor Academy Australia, and it's called the Truckies Hitch, which is tied in a unique way without any actual knots. Its main advantage is if you have a very long rope, you don't even need the end to tie it. It's all done very fast and in one smooth motion, and it releases very fast too. So here's how we tie it. After wrapping your anchor, throw the free end of rope crossing over your main line. Now above that cross, we form an overhand loop. Now grab a bight of rope from below it, bring it forward and up through that loop. Now holding this, grab your free end of line and just start pulling. This will cinch everything up, and now this loop here does the same thing that the carabiner did. It's again the exact same mechanics as all the other truckers' hitches we've tied. With one major difference, this one's held together by tension instead of an actual knot, meaning if there's no tension, the whole thing comes loose, which makes it a great choice for when you have a longer rope or for use on tarps or low to medium tension items. If you'd like to support the channel, grab a Bare Essentials knot tying kit, grab some gear, or rep a hat. I'm your friend DJ with the Bare Essentials, and thanks for stopping by.